Branden Rathert, and it just occurred to me, we were having this debate over posting this picture that some might find upsetting. After much debate, we finally posted it, and here's why. One of the management team here happened to see it and said, I want to hear this picture that you guys have been talking about posting before we posted it. And the manager looked at it, didn't say yes, but also didn't say no. But I took that as management has my back. And that is one of the things that makes me really happy in this job.
Didn't you used to do that with your parents, too? It's like you'd say something and they didn't quite say yes and they didn't quite say no. It's like, oh, okay, that leaves the door open for me to make a choice.
But I thought
I'll do what I want then.
I thought of this the other day. I was doing the Cardinal Caravan, and one of the board members from the Boys and Girls Club, his name is Jewel, and he works at Veterans United, and he worked at another big employer in town. I said, are you liking your job? And he loved his other job he had, too. He says, man, he says, not only am I liking my job at Veterans United, but I love the environment. And I thought, man, how cool is that? Doesn't always happen for everybody, but there are some things that we can do to make ourselves just a little bit happier. Wanted to bring in workplace expert Bobby Albert. Bobby, how are you?
All right. Well, good morning.
Good morning. Glad you could join us on the show this morning. Now, before we talk about some things that we can do to help increase our happiness in the workplace, there was a survey recently. I don't know how much you're into surveys, but it was talking about some of the happiest, some of the workers, the happiest workers, and what cities they came from. Kind of what do you think in your mind, some of these cities, what is it that they had in common? The employees that were happy. What was the commonality there?
Well, you bring up an interesting point here, and I know the survey was focused on the cities, but what is more telling is it's really a survey of the employers in those particular markets that were listed in the happiest. Like the top one was Miami. And then on the unhappiest at the bottom was New York. And so it says a lot more about the employers in those cities than it does about the cities themselves. Because when you go through the list, many of those cities that are even under the unhappy, they're excellent cities to go to. I visit several of them, and they're great cities. But one thing that all employees are looking for are basically 5 things, because it came from Gallup, who surveyed over 1 million workers and 85,000 businesses. So it was a huge sampling. And what they found is the workers in those companies were telling this, that they asked the question here, do you care for me? In other words, do you see me as a person? Do I belong here? In other words, do I fit? Can I contribute toward the goals of the company? And does this company stand for something? And do you create a learning environment that I can do the best job I can? When a company and the employer engages their employees in that way, they're going to find inside, just like you were giving some examples just a minute ago, inside the culture of that organization, people are going to be very happy. Being happy is the effect of doing the right things in the organization.
Hot Talk 93.9, the Eagle 816, workplace expert Bobby Albert. So let's say I'm trying to put this delicately. Let's say somebody is working in a place where they don't have this phenomenal workplace culture. Can you give us 2 or 3 tips on what we as workers, we as employees can do in our workplace to kind of increase our happiness in the job?
Well, that is a very good question because it all comes from the leadership. Okay. Everything rises and falls on the leaders. I mean, often I talk to CEOs, presidents, owners of businesses. I could almost push a recording button and they say the same thing. Bobby, come in and fix my people. But the truth is they need to look in the mirror and to see themselves, because they are the ones that need to be fixed.
Do you find oftentimes when if you ask somebody, if you ask an employee, hey, what do you think would make you happier in the workplace? And then if you ask the employer, what do you think would make your employees happier in their job? Is there a disconnect sometimes? Is there a difference of opinion between employees and employers as to what creates workplace happiness?
Man, that is a great question, because there is a huge gap. And let me just suggest this, is that in that Gallup survey, what's disappointing is that only 33% of the employees that responded said that their company is engaging them. In other words, 67% of the employees in companies today are saying that their company is not engaging them. They're walking the hallway speaking badly about the company and with their coworkers. But the gap is the person at the top are so driven for results. They're looking for increased revenue, decrease expenses, increase productivity. But those 5 things that I just listed a minute ago that came from the Gallup survey, that's what the employees are looking for. Huge gap between those two.
All right, Bobby Albert, workplace expert. Website or something that somebody's in the office right now can maybe go to and learn some more info?
Well, thank you very much for asking that. It's simply BobbyAlbert.com, BobbyAlbert.com, and I've written a book called Principled Profits, Outward Success is an Inside Job.
All right, you might find some interesting things on there that might help you have a better work day today. And from here on out, Mr. Albert, thanks for hanging out with us here in mid-Missouri this morning. We appreciate you.
All right, well, thank you.